Greetings. I once again apologize to interrupt your daily viewing pleasure for this important announcement. We will be starting a brand new RimWorld series, but as you saw in the thumbnail, it won't just be vanilla. There will be a new beginning to our custom story and a never before seen end. I have handmade a scenario specifically to include the original story of Void. Void will be our storyteller and our main mod. This will be deciding if we prosper or if we crumble. Now, I recommend watching the original Void clip as it will help make sense to this series' story plot. I have put a list of all the mods used in this series in the description if you want to go check them out or play along. Now, for the next few minutes, we'll be setting up our world and our colonists. So if you wish to skip ahead, then follow the timestamps in the video, and we'll get started. So let's now talk about our scenario. I have titled it Void Infiltrators, and we will be starting with 5 people. We also start with decent armor, a few muffalos, and a single gun. This will follow the backstory of the scenario whilst not making it too easy for ourselves. Now, onto our storyteller. You might see an unfamiliar face here, and that is the Void Storyteller. His real name is unknown, but his job here is to make us suffer. Now, you can read through the rest of his description at your own pace. So now, time to choose a difficulty for our series. I have decided to set the difficulty to Strive to Survive, for a few reasons. Firstly, we aren't playing the usual RimWorld story arc, so this mode's difficulty will be higher than usual. This series can also end at any time, despite me choosing Reload Anytime mode. You have my word, I will not use it for any save reloading. Only for the rare crash or me forgetting to press record, which is not a rare occurrence. For our world, we are going with the seed Void, as it seems to suit the situation quite well. We are also setting the global coverage to 100%. I prefer to do this just for purely aesthetic purposes. And here we are. We will be choosing a random site for our colony. But before we do that, here is the Void faction description. You can notice that we are also not too far away from a Void base. Now, this isn't actually too bad, as it will partially tie in with our series plot conclusion. Also, the other main things to note is that we are starting in a boreal forest. Here we do not have too much of an extreme weather pattern, but it is for sure more on the colder side, as the growing season only ranges for about 1/3 of the year. So we can conclude that hunting won't be a small business for us. So finally, we are up to creating our colonists. We have chosen 5 elite soldiers and survivalists. 7, our main survivalist. Gideon, the human computer. Marcus, our head negotiator. Rena, just the classic janitor. And finally, Pickle, the builder. With everyone collectively having at least a small passion for a skill. This will be perfect for a long-term colony, but we can only hope, of course. Also, just to quickly point out, all our colonists are actually chosen from the starting 10. The randomizer button was not used. I think if it was used too much, it would start to degrade our RimWorld challenge. The other colonists also weren't too hard to leave behind. In the past few days, you, your population and your leaders have heard the words of the televised Void leader. It has been played across every television over your planet, or so that's what they say. People are not sitting comfortably anymore. They are scared, threatened by a greater power. The local government have chosen you and 4 other elite soldiers to infiltrate Void before they take over your planet. So as we now find out our backstory and purpose, I think it's time to introduce the main goal for the series. As we have just learnt that we are 5 selected soldiers facing up against Void, the only way in our eyes to defeat them is to infiltrate their main base on this planet. The leading military expert and psychologist have set out plans for us, blueprints to build a monument, apparently to convince Void that we are willing to join them. We were warned that sacrifices must be made, for we are Void infiltrators. This thought resonates in the colonists' heads as they look around themselves, stranded, with nothing in a boreal forest, with only one mission. Before we begin to make a new home for our colonists, let's take a look around the map. As we already know, there are caves on this map, which can be very useful, especially for choke points and defending raids. But these caves also come with a major weakness. They hold insect hives within them, and it looks like there are 3 on the map, one of which being in a slightly inconvenient place for our colonists. We are also surrounded by marsh and water, which could make raids a little interesting, in a good way, of course. First on the priority list is to unforbid all items on the map. And lucky for us, I have a mod which does just that. And now it's time to do a little colony organization. This includes changing all colonists to attack a danger if they see it, rather than flee, as attacking usually gives the best outcome with a 5-person colony. We also must assign positions for colonists on the top bar, which is just a little trick that tells me which ones are my brawlers and which are my gunners. Which actually leads me to the next task, equipping weapons and armor. So we only started with one ranged weapon, being the chain shotgun. And with a shooting skill of 9 plus a small passion, 7 wins this by far. Sorry for all our other colonists, which will only get wood as their first weapon. Wood has a damage per second of 5, so it will actually increase everyone else's damage, just slightly. Despite this being not an actual weapon, we will take what we can get. Talking about taking what we can get, we got a full set of flak pants and vests. So equipping those will just make us that little bit more safe, because we know danger is imminent with the Void Storyteller. After all of this setting up, we must move on to fulfilling our colonists' needs, as well as acquiring some shelter. Lucky for us, it seems there is an old, abandoned shack just to the left of where we arrived. And with an added bonus, one of our 5 colonists can have a somewhat decent night's sleep. This is all nice, but where to set up base? Well, there is an almost specifically designed choke point within the mountain, quite close to us, but because it is so well set up for that, we will leave it alone for now. The other options are constructing a small building where we are right now, or building in the caves, which isn't as costly, but it has a risk of insect attacks. So we have decided to go with the third option, caves, as it will cost us next to no resources to create a room. And I think the insect hive is far enough away to not be a problem for now. The reason we want a room so much right now is because items stored inside will not decay, and it also gives production and mood bonuses. So there's a lot of benefits, as you can see. So now that we have got that out of the way, it is time for our colonists to start planting some rice crops on top of the small patch of fertile soil right near where we arrived. We are planting rice, of course, as it is the fastest growing crop and best for any early game colonies. As you can see here, we made a 6x8 growing zone, which should yield enough rice to get our colonists through the warmer months of the year at least. As we hit play, Gideon, Marcus, Rena, Pickle, and Seven all go off to cut some trees down on the growing zone. As this is happening, we place a door on the entrance of one of the caves, so we can start getting some indoors. It seems that there is no easy way, so Seven takes a giant detour around the mountain. So we quickly assign 7 to go mine out that one block in the way of the caves. Our current goal is to acquire a storage room on the first night, as materials such as medicine will deteriorate quite rapidly if left outside. With the wood previously cut down from the rice farm, we can construct a wooden door to finally create a small storage room within the caves. And with that, we can make a stockpile zone and haul everything inside. The reason we are not reinstalling the bed here is because I'm pretty sure the mood penalty for having an awful bedroom outweighs the boost in which sleeping inside will give. So at this point we can see that we have gotten pretty lucky with the biome and tile we randomly arrived at. But of course nothing good ever lasts forever, especially in RimWorld. Shifting to a broader view, over the coming episodes, you will start to see what kind of monument we are actually building. This was requested from a previous commenter. Now, back to our colony. With the Void mod comes an extra research tab titled Project Red Horse. Now, this only adds the ability to make Void faction uniforms, which may seem small now, but may lead to some interesting happenings later down the line. Now then, in the late afternoon, the colony have managed to haul most of the deteriorable items to the newly constructed storage room. With this leads a soon-to-be constructed research bench and wooden stonecutter's table. In my opinion, these are the best production benches to acquire in the early stages of RimWorld, as stone cutting allows the saving of precious materials such as wood and metal that can be used on more important matters. And well, we all know how critical a research bench is. It seems that Pickle and Rena have both begun construction, which continues until sunset, where it seems that they had some sort of plan to finish at the same time. A short while after construction also begins on a single wooden spike trap, set up within the entrance of the cave choke point. As I can almost guarantee, this will help us out in a future raid or attack. As Rena goes off to construct the spike trap, she once again reminds me about the insect hive, which is a little too close for comfort. As Rena is close to finishing the spike trap, she gains another precious level to construction, making her level 4 now. This will be very useful as it will save materials. Rena will botch less constructions. As night threatens to fall across the boreal forest, a few more items are hauled before we can say goodnight to the colonists. And it seems Gideon has quickly taken possession of the only bed we have for now. The other colonists fall asleep on meals and clothes, as assigning them a bedroom in the storage room would take up limited space and may also give them a worse mood. And thus, the night falls across the boreal forest. On our first day, the colonists have started to make a home here. Very early the next morning, at exactly 3 a.m., Gideon is already up and about. I presume because the bed let her get a better night's sleep than the other colonists. As the sun finally starts to rise, we move the stonecutter table just so the walkway here won't be cluttered by any stone chunks, as we are now setting up a dumping stockpile zone. We can also start to set up the research table by selecting the recurve bow on the research screen. The goal is to make a great bow for all our colonists that do not have a ranged weapon and are decent at shooting. The great bow is impressive for an early game weapon, as the damage and range it has can outperform many guns. This is exactly what we will need to happen if we want any chance of survival against Void. Making some actual rooms soon would be ideal for our colonists' moods. Some aren't looking the best. So we can select a few limestone chunks to be hauled back to the stonecutter's table, where one of our colonists should begin making some blocks. Gideon, after a little cleanup, begins the slow journey towards researching the recurve bow. Now the other colonists finally wake up, and as we can see, they all straight away go off to help with the task of stone cutting. As we can see right here, we have a total of around 400 steel, which is slightly uncomfortable amount to have. So Pickle and 7 get right onto that, hopefully giving us around another 200 steel. Whilst Pickle and 7 chip away at the large chunk of compacted steel above our current base, we set up another stockpile zone so we can move all this steel into one place. While everything is going to plan, I thought it would be a good idea to take a good look around the top of where our base is. With a movement speed of 30% in this marshy area, it seems we have another choke point and possibly an exceptional base placement on this map. Interrupting our strategic planning, a dead ibex ram catches my eye over the right side of the map. It seems maybe the local cougar wanted a snack? So we can unforbid this corpse and hopefully make our first meals since we arrived here. This also calls for a butcher's table to be built, out of wood of course, so our colonists can get to work on having a sustainable food source. After Rena finishes constructing the butcher's table, I restrict the muffalos from entering our storage room as they might get hungry and eat one of our colonists' meals. Which would of course be very inefficient because muffalos can just consume grass instead. Holding off from doing this earlier because of our lack of stone blocks, we can now construct 2 limestone walls and a wooden door to seal off the lower entrance of the cave. Once we do this to the top end as well, it would greatly expand our indoor living space, and incidentally get rid of a few mood penalties. During the wall construction, one of our muffalos journeys much too close to the insect hive, but luckily they either don't notice or don't care. On the journey towards sustainable food and meal production, a campfire to cook meals seemed like an obvious next step. The campfire is actually useful for multiple reasons too, as it will also slowly warm up our cave living space, possibly saving our colonists from hypothermia in the colder months. Having just placed the campfire, we may have gotten too excited about making our own meals, as 7 hunts a rat that wandered into our cave and spectacularly misses. But this is the least of our concerns, as the Spellipede doesn't go to attack Rena, but Rena, being set on aggressive, attacks it. Well, our first encounter of the series was probably always going to be against the insect hive, but this may be the worst possible way. Okay, to prepare, we quickly set Rena to flee rather than attack before the mega spider gets involved. Luckily, she has only taken minimal damage so far. After drafting all of our colonists, we can set them up at the lower entrance. But Rena has been cut off by the mega spider. She is now forced to face it off against the Spellipede with just a piece of wood. It's a losing battle. 7, despite missing the rat at his feet earlier, decides to aim and lands an important hit on the mega spider with the chain shotgun, dealing heavy damage. It turns out that the mega spider does care about the muffalo, and not in a good way. Now this may be accidentally strategically good, as muffalos have a thicker hide than humans and should take less damage in total. So while this is happening, we can quickly position 7 to be beside the mega spider, hopefully landing some hits. And indeed, 7 lands the next 3 hits, causing it to die in the next 18 hours. Gideon has finally arrived at the battle, dealing only a few hits of damage as 7 and the muffalo down the mega spider. Our Muffalo Zoya actually took very minimal hits, and minor injuries at that. But we can't celebrate too early as Rena is still battling the Spelipede. Now I'm getting everyone to melee attack, even our Gunner 7, because the risk of being shot accidentally by the chain shotgun is one I do not wish to take currently. As our colonists surround the Spelipede, it finally is downed, and with that is a quite successful first encounter. Just Rena did not come out of this fight totally unharmed. So now we can assign Gideon's bed to be the medical bed, as it will give several bonuses to Rena's recovery effectiveness. Right now, the only really concerning thing is that Rena could get an infection from the Mega Spider. And without herbal medicine, the likelihood of this goes way up. As Pickle prepares to tend Rena, Seven and Marcus destroy the insect hive so it can never reproduce. Which actually gives an additional 30 insect jelly. Our colonists may discover its special properties in a later episode. Now Pickle can tend to Rena, but I forgot that we actually have Glitter World medicine. So Pickle produces two 130% quality 10s and finishes the rest by hand. With the battle over, Rena tended. I think this is a good spot to end this episode. Having constructed 3 workstations, made a few stockpiles, and won our first battle, things are looking up for our friends in the Boreal Forest. Hopefully building more of a base and encountering some events in the next episode. My apologies for not seeing much of the mods we added to the series, but I'm almost glad, and I'm sure we will get our fill down the line. That's all I have for you for now, so if you would like to be notified when the next episode comes out, then you can hit that subscribe button and maybe even turn on the bell. Thank you all for watching and stay halfway.